Om Sadasiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Narayana Samarambham Acharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Naham Karta Harihi Karta Tat Puja Karma Chakhiram Yadyat Karma Karoma Tat Tatkiram Shambho Tavaradhanam Om Namo Bhagavate Shivanandaya Om Namo Bhagavate Chidanandaya Om Namo Bhagavate Krishnanandaya Om Namo Narayanaya Om Namah Shivaya. Pranams, salutations to the divinity abiding within and without. Through the divine instrument of Srimad Bhagavad Geeta, which is the celestial song of life and eternity by Lord Krishna. We are just discussing something, and when we had said, the first thing which we need to do in our life before we do anything is to offer prayers, and at the end we offer it to the Lord, which is the essence of Karma Yoga. So likewise, we are discussing Swami Shivanji Maharaj. In that book on Bhagavad Gita, he offers beautiful prayer to Lord Krishna, and all questions, intricacies which he had in his mind, he is just exposing, he is just expressing, that may this be revealed to me. And we are saying, he asked that what is the difference between Kshara, Akshara and Purushottama, what is the difference between Jivana Mukta and Videha Mukta, as you all know, correct? So in this very life, if you are liberated, that's called Jivana Mukti. And Videha Mukti is chronic, so it slowly happens, And then Kshara, Akshara, Purushottam, very subtle meaning is there. Turiya and Turiyatit are there. So these are the very subtle differences are there, and they look apparently similar. So he prays to the Lord that may this be revealed to me. And he says, let me be frank, Lord. Thou art my indweller, witness of my mind, Lord of my pranas. I cannot hide anything from you. Just come to me, play your flute. We shall eat butter and sugar candy together. And please reveal the Bhagavad Gita to me with your own mouth. Play your flute. We'll sing together, dance together. I will learn. So this was the earnest desire. And whenever we have earnest desire for something, that definitely happens. Because the Lord within always responds to any positive aspiration that we have. And we pray for that. So that is what happens. So this is what we should try to do even before we attend this small class or anything. That earnest prayers have to be offered. And then yesterday also we were discussing this. Gentleman also asking that why this Gita Dhyanam. So that is the meditation on Bhagavad Gita before we start plunging into it. And that is what is normal practice. And meditation means we try to conceptualize, visualize, and offer our praise, and so that His grace may come to us. So we discussed yesterday also that one of the verses in that meditation is Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Prachitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam. So yesterday also we were just talking that these particular teachings have been revealed or illumined to Partha, means he is the representative of Nara. Lord Krishna is representing Narayana. So this is the message revealed to Arjuna. And when was it revealed? That is Madhya Mahabharata. So in the midst of Mahabharata, in that Bhishma Parva, in particular 18 chapters it was given, and Vyasa Muni compiled it for the benefit of the whole mankind. Advaitamrita Varshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaadhyayinim. So it is Advaitamrita Varshinim. It is showering the nectar of Advaita. Normally any other nectar which we know, Amrita, what we understand, so that is something which may give some kind of physical longevity or a longer life or maybe greater pleasures. But this kind of an Amrita, once we know, that is something which liberates a man from all bondages, and the Parampada, or the highest gain in life, comes to us. So Advaita Amrita, so this is the greatest of the Amrita, and they say that Bhagavad Gita is considered mother, Bhavadveshini, which cuts the bondages of birth and death, and I meditate on you, like that. So this is the very serious contemplation. We offer the praise and we contemplate. And only when we contemplate with this faith, only then that message of this scripture will be revealed to us. It doesn't happen like that. There's also said that even in Guru also it is said that if we have as much reverence to the Guru as we have for the Ishta Devata, and with that devotion once we approach the Guru, only then the message of the scripture becomes revealed to us. It is so subtle that unless and until we regard Guru as equivalent or equal to Ishvara, that message is very subtle, and in its intricacies, in its subtleties, it will never be expressed to us. So this is what it is. Yesterday we also were discussing something which I don't intend to repeat. That was about the glory of Bhagavad Gita. And I said more than the glory, we should see Bhagavad Gita per se, like, what does it say? But still it is good, to have something. And Swamiji also says that it is something which removes 3 types of afflictions in our life. And when we do Shanti Path, always we say Om Shanti, 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 correct? So everybody knows what are these 3 different types of Ashantis. So what are those places? Adi Bhautik. So anything that is emanating from the Panch Mahabhutas. So all the physical world that we see around us is made up of Panch Mahabhutas. So all the objects, all the creatures, living, non-living, anything when they hurt us, that is referred to as Adi Bhautika. Then we have Adi Daivika, and then we have Adhyatmika also. So how do we differentiate these 3 entities? These are the 3 different ways Lord is manifesting. The 3 different ways Lord is manifesting. So normally we understand it as a subject and object. Kshetragna and Kshetra, as per the terminology of Bhagavad Gita. So one is Adhyatmic Anubhuti expression, that is Paramatman expressing as Jiva, what we understand as I. That is one manifestation, Abhivakti, that is called Adhyatmika. That is our innermost essence. The second is Adi Bhautika, the field of our experience, what we experience, and all the Jagata, which is made up with Panch Mahabhuta, that is called as Adi Bhautika. One is Adhyatmik. So Adi Bhautik is object, Adhyatmik is subject. Then what is Adi Daivika? Where does it come? Where do we normally understand, Lord manifests himself in 2 forms, subject and object, Chitra and Chitragna, Jagat and Jiva. Then what is this Adi Daivika? So Adi Daivika, as Krishna Swamiji Maharaj in many of his books have explained, is a link between subject and object. Is a link between Adi Bhautika and Adhyatmika. So all the bodily parts which we have, all the senses, all the organs of action, all the organs of knowledge, mind, intellect, everything has a presiding deity behind that. And it is that presiding deity which confers power, which confers strength to different organs. So when we have this Chakshurendriya, we understand Chakshurendriya, or Shrotrendriya, correct? The 5 Indriyas we call. So Chakshurendriya is not this physical eye, or Shrotrendriya is not this physical ear. This is also called Golak in Sanskrit. So Golak is a place where the Indriya resides. So we may sometimes have, that the eyes will be there. Apparently you may see a man is having eyes, but he will not have the faculty of seeing. Or you may have the ears, as in very elderly persons we see, they are not able to hear. But that, what confers power to hear to that ear, that is also called a Shrotrendriya. And that which confers power to see, that is called as Chakshurendriya, like that. So all the Indriyas, Jnanendriya and Karmendriya, there is a presiding deity behind that. And even when we perform Shanti Patha also, we are trying to offer prostrations and pranamas to the different deities. So that is called as Adi Daivika. So in the common sense, we understand that supposing there's a famine, there's a flood, or there's an earthquake, this kind of instances, which are beyond human control, which we cannot grasp. Nature has its own correcting mechanisms, But they are called as Adi Devika. So we are all, in one way or the other, suffering from these three types of afflictions: Adi Bhautika, Adhyatmik, and Adi Devika. So subject, object, and one connect or link between the two. If there was no link, subject and object cannot relate to each other, then understand each other. So that is how these three types of afflictions what we experience, they have to be set at rest. Only then that inner peace and composure comes, and then we can progress not only in our spiritual sadhana, but in our any other worldly activity also. We need relative peace. So that is something which will be conferred, by the study of these divine scriptures. And Atyantik Sukha, that is the goal. See, the man does not want happiness which is limited in time or limited in space. So he wants Paramananda, which is Akhanda, which is all enduring. For that, eternity we call, happiness we call, bliss we call, nirvana we call, Purusha we call. This is the supreme goal of life, and that will come through the study of these scriptures. As we said yesterday, it's also Prasthana 3 and very essential for the followers of Sanatana Dharma. Then Geeta, Sugita, Kartavya, Kiminni, Shastra, Vistarahi, they say like that also, correct? That the Shastras are like Aranyaka. And just as we have got different types of vasana, one of the vasanas they call it Shastra Vasana also. That you feel like I want to learn this, I want to learn this, I want to learn everything like that. But that is also not basically essential. It's good to read. It's good to understand as much as we can. But ultimately, as we were saying yesterday, we should be able to catch hold of the essence inside that. And that is how that Aparavidya becomes Paravidya. Failing which any amount of information, is just going to feed, that's not going to help us. So here, one of the things they say is Geeta, Sugita, Kartavya, Kiminni, Shastra, Vistarahi. So, if somebody approaches and studies Bhagavad Gita with great faith and reverence, then probably there is no need for any other scriptures. And as they say that in Upanishads, normally they talk about the supreme reality. They talk about the highest truth. And yoga talks about the means of attaining, the means of reaching to that particular reality. So in life we need both. In any field of life also, we need both. We need intellectual, theoretical understanding of a concept, and we also need the practical methodologies or the ways of accomplishing it. Mere theory is not going to help us, and mere practice, is also not going to lead us anywhere. So Chidananda Swamiji Maharaj also in one of his books he says, wisdom feed action and action-oriented knowledge. So knowledge also has to lead to right action, and action also has to lead to the knowledge. So in that sense, both these things are there. That you have got the philosophical understanding of the highest reality and the means, and that is why all the different chapters are referred to as yoga. Correct? And yesterday also we were seeing that Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Now how can Vishada, the delusion can become yoga? That is also something which we can also ponder. How, supposing we are having despondency, and how can that be considered as yoga? So in that state of mind also, if a man takes recourse to divinity, if a man takes recourse to higher truth, then that despondency also becomes yoga. So in any situation of life, we should take recourse. So there are two basic problems in life, to which Bhagavad Gita addresses, And if you have to say only two words, what shall we call them? But this is the two root cause, Just as you can diagnose a different disease, and then you have got the therapy, correct? So Chidananda Swamiji Maharaj uses the word, Arjuna disease and Krishna therapy, like the disease. But he explains in a more deeper way. See, if you say Arjuna disease, if you consider that, so all of us in one way or the other are patients of the Arjuna disease. So what are the two manifestations of that? Every disease has got a symptom, correct? So if you say that Arjuna disease, and as we were discussing yesterday also, the real root cause is ignorance. So in the modern science today also, we try to go to the root cause at molecular level, at receptor level, what is happening, and then we try to find out it. And then we cure the disease. So that being fundamental. So if you say that ajnana or ignorance of the self is the root cause at a molecular level, supposing, and then what are the symptoms of the disease? What will happen? They and Bhagavad Gita tries to address those two symptoms, correct? So if we are suffering from ignorance of the self, we may be knowledgeable or enlightened about every aspect of the world, but still we are unaware, and that is the problem with almost all human beings, unless and until we are realized. So what will be the symptoms? Supposing I am ignorant about myself, what will happen?
Continuous worry of these things.
Continuous worries will be there. Then, in just 2 words, Bhagavad Gita also explains the same word if you can catch. They call delusion and grief. Correct? So in Sanskrit we call it, or in even normal language called moha and shoka. So moha is, that when you do not understand something in the right way, you take something for what something is not. That's basically called delusion or the moha, or the diluted, perverted understanding, in a very common sense we say. So because we do not have the right knowledge of the self, moha, another interesting thing also is there, that there is also a thing which we need to understand, just as you understand Parabrahman, we also need to understand what is Maya. So Parabrahman and Maya, they call, they are the separate entities as far as Sankhya Darshan. But as far as the Advaita Darshan is there, even the Maya, which is the supreme, imponderable power of that Brahman, they say is not separate from, it is his power, it is his strength. So Chidananda Swamiji Maharaj did a very long thing in his book, he has explained, that Maya and Brahman are distinct without a difference. So beautifully it is worded, that Maya and Brahman are distinct without a difference. So it is because of that Maya, that we take things in a perverted way, in a way that they are not. So ultimately, that this moha or delusion, which then there is also a way how it can be overcome, but that moha or delusion is one basic symptom, and ultimately grief, that is called shoka. So even if you read all the different slokas in Bhagavad Gita also, Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam aham tva sarva papyapti mokshishyami ma suchaha. Even the second chapter also it is said that shoka, because of that perverted understanding, we assume our things into ourselves what is not ourselves, and that leads to shoka. These are the greatest problems of the mankind, and Bhagavad Gita is trying to address this, that we should be able to overcome moha, delusion, and we should be able to overcome the shoka or the grief. And that is what everybody wants. That is the ultimate goal. That is the ultimate wish of everybody. We'll come to it little later also, the same thing also, how the delusion and grief Bhagavad Gita addresses. Little more about this glory of the Gita, Gurudev explained. Even in Chandogya Upanishad also, there is a very good simile. Here also, Swamiji explains also, that this Kurukshetra and the Bhagavad Gita which took place is not something which happened just 5,000 years ago and that is presented. It is a continuous happening, this so-called. They say that the whole world is a kind of battlefield. Kurukshetra, the real Kurukshetra is within us. Dhritarashtra is the ignorance that we have. Correct? And as long as we are born as a human being, we must understand that we embody ignorance. If we did not have the ignorance, we would not have been born. We would have been a liberated person. But the very fact that in some way we are afflicted or we are affected by ignorance, we are born. And another beauty is that in the human birth is the only species, where we have the potential, we have the opportunity of being able to overcome that grief and retain to the supreme reality. So in one sense, we may say we are born, so ignorance is there. But the greatest consolation is that this is the only opportunity, this is the only time, only birth which comes very rarely. And that is how it is said also, that human birth is a very rare gift. But because it has come to us in a natural way, we probably don't understand the real significance of that. So that is how the whole thing is. That Dhritarashtra is there within us also. in form of ignorance of the self. And that has to be addressed. And then we have got the Arjuna and we have got a Sri Krishna also. So Arjuna is our individual soul and Sri Krishna is the indweller. So are they different entities? When you say, that Jivatma is there and Paramatma is there, so are they different entities? In a way, yes, because we experience that way, correct? And the way we understand philosophy of great seeing, we don't see that they're different. So although in the chariot we see that Lord Krishna is there, the charioteer, and Arjuna is there, and then you explain that just as the Swami of the Rath, the Antaryamin is there, and then there is also, Arjuna and Jivatma is there. So both of them are existing. How do we interpret this? This question asked to many saints also, that when you say this is Jivatma, Paramatma in essence, Jivatma is Paramatma, this is Jiva Brahma Vana Paraha. Or that Jiva is Brahman, and again we say that two are existing together. So how do we resolve this? I've asked this question to many saints, and different people have given me different explanation. Even in Mundaka Upanishad also here these two birds sitting on the same, this tree, and you see one is enjoying the fruits and one is just observing. So are there two such entities within us? So the way I have understood is, that the Atman or the Paramatman in essence is Satchidananda. It cannot be tainted by anything. Even if ignorance is there, Swarup Ajnana is there also, that is all there. But Lord will not be affected by that. That is Advaitam, Shantam, Sivam, Swarupam. So in that form the Paramatman is there. Then who has the problem? If the Atman or the Paramatman is above all afflictions, above the control of Maya, and it is this Paramatma is the one Maya is under his influence, then who has the problem? That is what sometimes we need to think. And then in Dhritasya Viveka of Adi Shankaracharya, he has explained that basically this Atman or the innermost self or the Antaryami, what we call it, gets reflected in our Antakarana. Antakarana, as you all know, that is comprising of Man, Buddhi, Chitta and Ahankara. In the Antakarana, that innermost reality or the Atman or the Paramatman gets reflected. So that reflected consciousness is called Chidabhasa. That is called as Jiva. This is how I have understood. Talking to so many persons, I think, how do we reconcile this? Because when you say there's a problem and it's again Ishvara is there, so is there, who has the problem? The problem is not to the Antaryami. Even with all the limitations which Jiva has, it rests in its pristinely supreme state. But that Paramatman, that Antaryamin, which gets reflected in Antakarana, that is called as Chidabhasa. That is called as Jiva. Chit Chaya also, another word is also there. Chidabhas, Chit Chaya. This is a classical teaching in Vedanta, and Dhritasya Viveka, Shankaracharya Maharaj teaches, And this Chit Chaya or Chidabhas reacts with the senses, mind. Indweller Antaryamin cannot. It just cannot interact with the non-self. You need a mechanism to interact, because the satta is different. Paramathic satta. It is akarta, abhokta. So that Chidabhasa, or what we call Jiva, is the one which intellects, which enlightens the buddhi, which gives, this strength and power to the mind and to the senses like that. So basically, that Chidabhasa is the Jiva that we understand, but we should understand that this is not the real form. That Chidabhasa, what we see, it looks very similar to Ishvara. Because if you see the image in the mirror, they are not very different. It looks very similar. But you can see there is a little inversion. What is left appears right, what is right appears left. That we are that, as of now, we identify that Chidabhas identifies with the body, mind, intellect. That is called as the Jiva. But when we try to go deeper and deeper and see that Chidabhas is not as it appears, it's just a reflected consciousness. The true consciousness is myself, and that is Ishvara. So like that, if we say these two entities, when this came, I thought this is how I have tried to understand, so I can share it with you, that when they say Krishna and Arjuna, Nara and Narayana, they apparently are two different entities, they are there, one is guiding the other, one is very liberated. But when he attains, the knowledge of the self, and then ultimately at that stage, then there is no difference. So there is a very, famous Think of Hanuman or Lord Hanuman also, correct? I think you also must have heard about that. When Lord Rama asked Hanuman as to how we are related to him. And at that time he says, that Deha Buddhya Dasoha. If I understand myself as this physical body, then I am your servant, I am your sevak. Jiva Buddhya Anshoha. Here our Buddhi is Jiva Buddhi like this, In that sense we say that Mamaiva Ansho Jiva Loke, Jiva Buddha Sanatana. So we are not the Ansho of Paramatman, we are the Paramatman in whole self. But because of the Jivatva, Jiva Bhav that we have, it is considered as we are the Ansho of the Paramatma. And Atma Buddhya Tamevaham. If I understand myself as the Atman, then there is no difference. So Nara and Narayan difference, Arjuna and Sri Krishna difference also what we see is there. And that is going to be there as long as unity of self, unity of consciousness is experienced. It's a long journey which may span several years, which may span several births, but eventually there is unity. And unity is only at the level of substratum, at the level of universal, not at the level of particulars. We only look at the particulars, but the unity is at the level of universal. And that is what great Mahapurushas teach us, that you should not look at the particulars, but we should look at the universal in each one of us. Unity of the self, unity of the consciousness. That is the only thing which can unite the mankind. Nothing else, So this is all about that. Then comes, that guide for study. So yesterday also, yes.
So I think I understood Jivatma and I also understood Atma, and you said Jivatma interacts with body, mind, and intellect. So I understood that.
Jivatma is, when that reflected consciousness identifies itself with this agenda, that's called a Jivatma. Yeah.
So how can Jivatma listen to Atma, or how can Arjuna listen to Krishna? Like how does that connection happen, or that connection never happens?
Which connection? How is Jivatma?
So
Yeah.
Atman is also within us.
Yeah.
Jivatma is also within us.
Yeah, then Atman, the reflected form Atman becomes Jivatma. That's what I say, correct? Because as I said, I personally understand there are no two different entities. But the reflected consciousness, what is there, that you can take a separate entity, and that interacts with the body, mind, intellect, correct? So it can always draw the light from the original source, no?
It can.
Yeah, it can, because ultimately it has to see that I may look like that, but I am just a reflected consciousness, And then because of that Chidabhas, because it doesn't know itself, that is how it tunes with the body. And there are different ways explained in that Grantha also. How that connection with the body can be severed, how connection with the mind can be severed. That's all a very technical subject. But in brief, that because Chidabhas interacts with this body, mind, intellect, we live as a Jiva. And as long as it thinks body, mind and intellect is true, it will happen. And the Maya, the thing is, it projects a thing in a wrong way, it makes it appear different than what it is, and it makes you believe that it is true. Another problem is that, it is not just that it makes the thing appear in a different way, but makes you feel it is true. That's the bigger problem, So it makes things appear in a different way, and again, it makes you believe that this is true. Daivi Hesha Gunamai, they say, Mo Maya Virathya, Mam Eve Prapadyante Maya Mekantarante. In the 7th chapter, 14th verse, Jayantbhai Maharaj, in all his lecture used to say, it Daivi Hesha Gunamai. And that Maya, as we understand, is not always a negative thing. See, even if you have got the time, you can go through that one extremely good book of Chidananda Swamiji Maharaj. It's called God as Mother. And that is a great reading I have done. And normally we understand Vidya, Maya as negative. Something which binds in samsara, something which makes us go through cycle of birth and death like that. But then that Maya also has got two parts. One is called Avidya Maya and one is called Vidya Maya. So Avidya Maya is the one, which is where all we are stuck or we are under that influence. But the same thing can become Vidya Maya, and it can liberate us and take us to a destination. That's beautifully is explained, So involution of spirit into matter and evolution of man to Godhead. These are the two words he has used, So first part is Avidya Maya, where also we can seek the help of Maya, that may I prosper, may I live, may my problems in life be solved. That is one way of praying Maya, Mother. That is how we pray Mother also. But other part is Vidya Maya. That enough is enough, we call it, correct? Now I don't need anything more. I need to go back to my abode. I want to go back to my soul. That's called Vidya Maya. So in Vedanta, the Vidya Maya word is not very often used. But in this particular book I have read, so beautifully it is explained how Vidya Maya helps us go back. So that is the whole thing, like, So it is again the mysterious power of Ishvara. So if it binds us and if it leads to the cycle, then again it should have that ability to restore us to that, correct? Because God's dispensation cannot be such that it will want Jivatma or the man to always living in a state of bondage. It will always want there has to be other way out also. If there is a disease, there is a remedy also. And there is a solution. You're saying something?
Goddess mother, is it? The book name and author, who is that? What is
Yeah, that is book is God as mother. And that is Swami Chidananda Saraswati. Yes, Swami Maharaj's prime disciple. I tell you, one of the best readings I have done in my life, and there are all these three forms of deities, Mahakali, Mahalakshmi and Mahasaraswati. How we worship as Avidya Maya and how we worship as Vidya Maya, both are helpful, but both have got different meanings. But that's the whole thing here, that when we say this, that ultimately, that this Maya, what is looking as a source of problem to us, can also become a helpful liberation. And that is why also, that on one side there is a noose which connects and other side there is sword which can help connecting the problems, like that.
When reading the Geeta, it is better to stick to our, like we have our Guru is Swami Shivananda. It's better to stick to Gurudev's teaching with the Geeta. I encourage to read Gurudev's books and because I read it in the Gita. Is it good to stick to one Guru or just the books of one Guru?
Yeah.
Or read other books also by different authors?
This is something very difficult to say this or that way. See, for a man of intellectual temperament, if you read the thing, see, generally speaking, if you have got faith, and we will come to that right now, in this same part we will consider, this guide for study. I'll say something and it will also address what you are trying to just find out, correct? So, see, if our discipleship is complete, then even one guru and one text also should be more than enough. Swamiji says in his book, not the one whole Bhagavad Gita, one verse, these are his words, and again I have taken from one verse of Bhagavad Gita, he says, if we are able to understand in its true essence, true import and implement, it can bring liberation. So if one verse can do, one saint can always do, why they should not be doing? So one saint, well, ultimately the truth is same. It is propounded by different sages in different ways, But for a man of rational temperament, or for a man who is practicing Jnana Yoga, we just come to that today also, correct? But the Jnana Yoga, if you are there, and if you are wanting to be very clear about everything, maybe when you read something else also, and it gives some more clarity, there's nothing wrong in that, but that should not become essential requirement, If we have got an intense faith, then, that some divine force, divine power reveals by itself. We see so many, poets, Narsi Mehta is there, Mirabai is there, so many Bhakta Kavis. The kind of teachings which they have given are becoming the topics of the PhD students also. So there has to be intuition. Somewhere that light will come, which does not necessarily come from the study of books and analysis and that only. But that is one way in Jnana Yoga. So if some particular person is pursuing that, there is no objection in that. But that should not become an absolute requirement, correct? So initially, sage will give the guidance out of his own revelations, and maybe, that divine light will sprout from within. So it should not be essential. Generally, it is recommended. And Swamiji also has said, try to stick to one guru or try to stick to one commentary like that. That's what he has said, And I also believe that way. But my disposition, nature is such that I also like to pick up things, and I have no differences. Even if I read 100 books, I find how they are connecting. That is God's grace, So I don't see differences. I find out how they are uniting, how they are connecting. So depending upon one's individual, yes.
Can you once again define the word Adhyatmika?
Adhyatmika. So Adhyatmika is something, which is basic. Adhyatmika is your innermost self, Atman. Correct? So Adi Atman. So anything that takes you towards your Atman, that is called Adhyatmika. So that is why in Bhagavad Gita and other books also sometimes you will find body, mind also has addressed as Adhyatma. Because body and mind also ultimately connects you to that Atman. So sometimes you will find the word Atma used for body and mind also in so many scriptures also. But ultimately Adhyatma is anything which takes you closer to or helps you become attuned with the Atman. That is referred to as Adhyatmik. And Adhyatmik in a very simple word is I, myself, Not that Atman is great, Atman is Akarta Bhokta. It is I, Akarta Bhokta. So Atma is what I understand as I. So we understand I in a perverted way. But when I understand I in a true way, that is Atman. So Atman is not something remote to us. So it is something what we experience every moment. So that is basically called as Pratas Varami Ravi Sansmurad Atma Tattva. That's it. So every morning we get up, I, the feeling of I, that is the Atman. But we understand I in a little perverted way. But in a true way, if you understand that I, that is become Atman. So that Aham, in a true sense, you understand the Aham. Ahamkar vritti is wrong, but true Aham ultimately leads to that. Anyway, I'll complete what I say. So this Guru is, as asking, one Guru should be enough. But how should we approach the Guru? Let us see that way. So in Bhagavad Gita, there are two verses, in 4th chapter also. One is 434. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanam tattvadarshina. So what does it say? Tad vidhi, pranipatena. So offering prostration, offering reverence. And that reverence should be wholehearted. Sometimes we do reverence just externally, just for the sake the other person should feel good about me, he should not feel bad about me, like that. Not that way. So reverence is true reverence, and you know that there is a possibility that this particular saint or this particular man, it may not be a saint, it could be a simple person also, Tad vidhi pranipatena. Pariprashnena. What is pariprashnena? Pariprashnena is what? By questioning, which is born out of genuine curiosity. If you should ask a question in a way that other man feels impelled to answer, See, one little humorous word is there, that is when Mahatma was there. And he said that in so many Vedanta class, we find people who are Prashnananda. He said like this, So Prashnananda, they happy in question. They will not be interested in answer. If you make a question, and others say how impressive it is, how everyone feels about it. Answer, they will not listen. He will only say that how good question was. That kind of question is not going to happen. And students also sometimes, they want to tease a teacher or test him. That question is not going to happen. And the other man will always realize what is the intent, what is the import of your question, Tat vidhi pranipatena, pariprashnena. If you ask a question from the bottom of your heart, definitely it will be answered, Because that man feels impelled. He just cannot resist without answering. Pariprashnena sevaya. So what is seva? Pariprashnena sevaya. Upadekshanti te jnanam jnanam tattvarshena. What is that seva? Not the physical seva. Physical seva is also okay. That is what in Gurukula. Now today we have very little chance of doing it. But in the words of Swami Chiranji Maharaj, it is basically following or abiding by the teachings of a Guru. That is the real service, he says. Abiding by or following the teachings of a Guru is the real service, Other service is secondary. That part you may do, that's not important. But the real service is, you just try to follow in letter and spirit what are his teachings. Normally, we have our own filters. And whenever somebody will teach, we decide this much we will take, this much we will not take. That kind of thing is not going to happen. So in letter and spirit, we take this. So only then that is the real service. All other service are secondary. Here is sir, means you take a Brahma Vakya, whatever he says, and then you follow. Then that person gains the knowledge. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnanam tattvarshena. Then again the 4th chapter, 39th verse to take out. There again, higher level of these preparations are mentioned. How should we get that knowledge from Guru? What is that? Shraddhavan labhate jnana. Then, what is Shraddhavan labhate jnanam tatpara sanitendriya jnanam labdhavaparam shanti machirana digachati. So these are higher versions. Initial first part we saw. How do we approach it? Shraddhavan labhate jnana. Tatpara sanitendriya. So, what is important is Shraddha. Shraddhavan labhate jnana. Now, what is Shraddha? Faith. That's true, equivalent word, but the real little deeper meaning of that, what is called Shraddha? Devotion is true, but just if I say I have faith in Swami Shivanji Maharaj, or I have faith in Maharshi Aurobindo, or faith in Ramana Maharshi, what is that exact meaning? They say Guru Vedanta Vakyesu Satya Buddhi Avadharana Sa Shraddha. That's the meaning, correct? So Guru Vedanta Vakyesu Satya Buddhi Avadharana Sa Shraddha. So whatever my Guru says, whatever Vedanta my scripture says, that is true, that faith should be there. And only then the knowledge will come. See, I tell you, in our normal course of life also, if you listen to somebody lecturing, seminar, unless and until you have a faith in that person, you will not get anything out of it. See, it has happened in my life several times, that I keep reading, sometimes writing also. So when I read some article in some speaking tree like issue or some other thing also, and then apparently I go through, I feel it's okay and I don't find anything. And I said, and I feel no, probably I have not given the attention which is due to it, And that faith was lacking. Faith means I do not know that subject. The other person may know that. And there is a chance that he knows better than me. And there is a chance that I will learn with that openness. You study, that's called a Shraddha. Shraddha doesn't only mean that you accept without conviction. That there has to be something which has to stand to the reason of the logic also. And then beside the logic, it has also to become Smanubhuti. So only then knowledge will come, correct? But then that faith should be there, that I do not know, this person may know, I think so, and that with that openness of mind I listen to him. And once then I am convinced, then the whole thing is true. But that is how Shraddha is there. So even if you read different sages are there, why only some particular sage or some particular book inspires us? Not that others are not up to the mark, but that matching faith is not there. We may have a superfluous or we may have a faith which is not absolute faith, But that is how the extent of faith will determine how much you are able to grasp, Shraddhavan labhate jnanam. Tatpara, how much that reading Sanitendriya that controls the senses and the mind. Only then that knowledge will come. So this is the another level of disciples' qualities which make us understand this. So it's all about that. Then Swamiji says that there are other things also, that some words are used with a dual meaning. Sometimes in Bhagavad Gita, Avyakta word is used. So Avyakta is used for Maya or Mula Prakriti, primordial nature. And it is also used for Parabrahman. And Swamiji says that Lord Krishna speaks from different levels of consciousness. From different levels of consciousness. So at what level is addressing? Whom is addressing? What is the background? Like that has to be seen. So Bhagavad Gita will give message to a very beginner who is a novice. For him also there is a message, and there is also a message for the highly realized person also. So it is addressing all kinds of people. And same message can be interpreted differently with a different level of consciousness that we have. Same message can be understood differently. See, we will see little later. But when you say Yoga Karma Kaushalam, correct? So how do you understand this? In all the management schools they teach like this, Yoga Karma Kaushalam. So if you do the action skillfully, dexterously, that's called as a yoga. That is not the actual meaning here. Whenever he says Yoga Karma Kaushalam, means you carry out the actions in such a way that the inner sanskaras or the vasanas which are there in you are liquidated. We will see the whole figure with figure also tomorrow. That is the basic import of the whole scriptures, that if we do selfless action, karma yoga, we'll be rid of the impressions, we'll be see the sanskaras, and that is how the action becomes a liberating force. Action is not always binding. So that is the whole thing, that karmasu kaushalam means you do the acts in a way that you, even though you are within the world, that is not touching you. Even by remaining the lipta, you are able to do that. So even by remaining completely detached, we can do the action. That is kusharta. That we do the actions without the binding influence of that. So like that, every sloka, every word has a meaning. And the more we understand, the more we see, And Swamiji says, here, in that, yesterday what I was thinking, that priori and posteriori methods are there. So he says, the more and more deep you go, more and more meaning is revealed to us. And behind the phenomenon, there is a noumenon, what he calls, So that is, we are able to attain to that. But all about that. Now, again, time will be less today, so maybe that priori and posteriori part I'll take tomorrow. I just will open one little subject that we'll discuss tomorrow and further. Bhagavad Gita, as Swamiji explains, basically is a synthesis of 4 different types of yogas. There are 2 different pranalis, which also we'll see tomorrow, Karma Yoga and Sannyasi Pranali. But as far as yoga is concerned, we say that Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga. Raj Yoga is also there. And Swamiji says Raj Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are very closely interlinked. So ultimately, Bhakti Yoga transforms into Raja Yoga also. They are not very different. So basically, he explains that any message in our scriptures, what is there, ultimately it leads you to the message of Veda and Vedanta. And that ultimate message of Mahabharata is Tat Tvam Asi. That thou art. Means what is called, what is perceived, what is understood as Jivatman, in essence is nothing but Paramatman or the Brahman. Now how Bhagavad Gita says that? So this is Tattva Darshana. So when you say Tat, means that reality, that supreme reality which is behind the whole manifestation of Jagat, that is called as a Tat. Tvam is the reality which is behind this particular physical frame. So what I understand as I. So as a Tattva Darshana, the first 6 chapters of Bhagavad Gita is exposition of what is Tvam Pada in that Tattva. Who am I? Who you are? The other 6 chapters are Tat Pada. What is Ishvara? So that you will see in the 7 to 12 chapter, what is Tat Pada Ishvara. And the last 6 chapters of Asi means that Tat and Tvam, what is behind the whole manifested world and what is behind this human existence, they are not different. In that sense, the first 6 chapters, as a sadhana, if you consider, the first 6 chapters can be considered Karma Yoga, the next 6 is Bhakti Yoga, and last 6 as Veda. Although this demarcation is not absolute. They say that Karma Yoga starts from the 2nd Adhyaya and goes up to 18th. In all the chapters, you will find the essence of Karma Yoga. But for the broader understanding, for the ease of thing, we can say that first 6 chapters Karma Yoga, then Bhakti Yoga, and last 6 Jnana Yoga. As far as the means is concerned, and as far as Tattva Darshan is concerned, the first 6 chapters basically exposition of Tvam Pada, that who am I? Guru says Tattva, so who am I? Tat Pada is who that Ishvara is, and last 6 is Asi. They are not different in essence. They are different only as far as their adjuncts or Upaji is concerned. Correct? So that how they are different and how they are united and what is the Bhagavad Gita, how it connects these three, that part, the way Bhagavan inspires, we will carry forward tomorrow.